Welcome to the Multiverse Comics podcast. On today's episode, we have a Superman movie companion. Everything you need to know going into the Superman. Who are all these characters with them? What's this all about? What's the casting and the storyline? Here you go, the Superman movie companion. Let's dive right in.
I have Superman 2025 trivia to see which one of you can answer this particular casting. Because I was very surprised when I got this list.
Right.
Who is playing Jorel
In the new
in
Superman?
the new Superman movie?
I don't know. Well, let's see. It's probably not Marlon Brando.
Right.
I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm going to go out on a limb to say it's probably not Russell Crowe either.
I wish it were Russell Crowe. He was not a bad one.
But this is a brand new universe. So we need to find somebody who's got that kind of Brando, Russell Crowe, Tom Hardy. It's got to be Tom Hardy.
Did y'all enjoy the movie Hangover?
I've never seen it.
Not
And if you tell me that Zach Galifianakis and
That would be
whatever
cool.
his name is,
That'd be the
I'm gonna
worst.
freaking lose my mind.
Bradley Cooper is listed
It's Jorel.
as Jorel.
Oh yeah, I can go with that. Yeah, I can go with
Well,
that.
once again, I don't know how long, because they said that we're not doing an origin story.
No,
Thank goodness.
So we're not going to, I don't know, I mean, probably hologram, Fortress of Solitude, voiceover. But when I got this because I was trying to figure out which Hawkgirl we were getting. I didn't know if it was Chiara or Kendra,
right.
because when Jason said, hey, let's talk about the side characters and where they came from.
Like it's a Superman movie prep. Like these are the things you need to know
About
going into
everyone who's
who are
not
these
Superman.
characters.
So I was,
And let's talk about All Star Superman. What's that about? Like, what's the premise there?
and I was when I saw his name, I was like, that can't be right. So I went back to IMDb and he's listed as, Jorel. I was like, well, that's something that they really haven't talked a whole lot about.
That's very true.
You
That's
know what
very
I've been
true.
thinking about with the whole Jorel Superman thing?
Yeah.
So basically, there's a hologram of Jorel that Kal-El can ask questions of.
Yeah.
And it has all the knowledge that Jorel had.
Right.
It's not Jorel, but it's like
It's AI.
Like,
That's it.
digital AI version.
Yeah.
We have the ability to do that now. So I have everything that I've ever recorded, like all the transcripts from my stuff, and I loaded that into a knowledge base, a database, right? So all the transcripts. And I can use my voice. AI can replicate my voice. We actually do it sometimes.
Right.
AI can replicate my voice. And pretty soon, actually, you can do this, but it's still pricey now. You can even have video replacing your video. So what's happening now is a lot of the knowledge, sort of gurus are creating AI versions of themselves where all their content, like the books they've written, all of their speeches, everything they've ever talked about publicly is loaded into this database. And you can ask it questions. It will reply in their voice.
Wow.
So that's a thing that's happening right now for
Nothing bad's going to come out of there.
experts, right? Well, so they charge you money for this. They charge you money
Of course they do.
like if they're gurus in their space for their advice.
Every good
But you
sex
have
worker does.
you have easy access to their advice. My kids, I can leave like Jorel Jason version and leave them with all the things that I want them to know. And they can talk to me when I'm gone. That's going to exist. All the technology is there for it to exist. Surely somebody's going to package that up. The next legacy box or
You know,
is going to be that.
actually, no. You know what? I can see a benefit on that. I can.
Yeah.
Even me, as jaded as I am and terrified as I am, because I would have freaking loved to have some resource like this of my granddad, who passed away many years ago. If he had that, because that would be amazing.
Yeah.
Tell me about this life or what, this experience and that experience. So as a sort of a posterity thing for generations to come. Yeah, I can actually see that.
And just
I
think
don't
about
think
loading in your like I have memories that show up in Facebook from 12 years ago, where I was like that was sort of my repository for, we did this with the kids. We went there and like my thoughts during the time or whatever. They could ask, hey, was there a time when I was a kid that I did this? Oh yeah. Way back in, and it will be able to access more information than my brain can.
Somebody's going to hack this, and it's going to be like, tell us the secret, Jason L., tell us the secret that you never told anyone else, your future generations. Well, I was a most prolific serial killer that Texas ever knew.
There's
or
a TV
didn't
show
know.
about this, actually.
Yes.
Yeah, no, when I see that, I'm like,
This is why I bought so many deep ice chests.
This was the future. Like they predicted this technology in Superman. How crazy is that?
Yeah. Okay. And I'm thoroughly disturbed.
No more crazier than the actress who's playing Hawkgirl.
Well done for getting us back on
No.
track.
There you go.
Well done.
The actress who's playing Hawkgirl played the live action Dora the Explorer.
Okay. Yeah. Fine. Yeah. Okay. Why not? Yeah.
I'm the map. I'm the map. I'm the map. I'm
Swiper, no swiping.
Christopher Reeve's son is getting to play a reporter.
Oh,
at
there
the
we
Daily
go.
Planet.
there you go. There you go.
The one who looks the most
Just
like him.
Yeah, that'll be weird. I
And-
mean, won't be weird, but it will be weird.
And I don't know who Terrence Rosemont is, but he's playing Otis. So we have an Otis.
Otisburg. It's just an itty bitty place. Yeah. Otisburg. Oh, Miss Tesswalker got her own.
Yeah. So I just, those little casting things, but I did.
That's cute. You know what, though? You said something a few moments ago, and I'm going to jump back and just say, consider this.
Yes, I do like vanilla ice. I mean, it's not changing.
No, we're done with
Is this organic, Stephen, or is this AI, Stephen?
No origin story. And you said, thank goodness.
Yes.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
Because we don't want to waste valuable
45 minutes.
screen time on origin story. But I am conscious of the Stan Lee thing about how every comic book is somebody's first issue. This will be somebody's first Superman movie. So I do hope that they kind of do something so it's not just, and you're in the film.
I kind of expect there'll be some brief recap.
I like what they did with the Ed Norton Incredible Hulk movie. They kind of aped the old Bill Bixby thing during the credits to kind of give you an idea of what had happened.
That's what I was thinking. Something in the credits, like to show is how we got here.
Put him in Shunk. Warner Brothers presents.
Or you could just have, so just talking about AI, some AI character walk out and go, hey, we got two different screens here. Does anyone not know how Superman got here? Click A. Do you want to start the movie now? Click B. Do you want to see Uncle Ben die again in a new, creative, horrible way? Here we go. Do you already know how,
You can just switch characters.
Yeah. We're talking about that headset immersive experience that Jason has. So there'd be a way to, hey, do you want to watch this again or do you not?
That's how you watch sports now. We watched the NCAA gymnastics championships last weekend, and you could watch the main feed, the main ESPN feed, or you could watch each of the skills, like the pommel horse or the parallel bars or whatever. There was a feed for each skill. And what happened is each school would rotate amongst the skills. So all the people from OU who we were watching, they would do their high bar at the same time,
right?
Or they would do their pommel horse at the same time, right? So or the forward routine, whatever. So we would just see where they were in the rotation. We would switch to that feed and we would watch OU kind of make their progression around instead of the main screen the whole time.
Right.
That was really a great way to watch an event.
Interesting.
So I think that's what Sunday football is now. Like if you can switch amongst all the different shows, like you can watch the Red Zone.
Oh,
channel.
yeah. If you have the red,
It'll pop in and you can do.
Watching it that way, you can click on a tile, but, some of us legacy guys just know we're Cowboys fans and we know what we're going to get. So we just sit and watch that and, pray that Jerry Jones gets kidnapped by aliens. But that's
say that in Texas, man. They've got ears.
Aliens?
Jerry does.
Jerry, come once again. The other guy who's going to sue, come talk to me. Come talk to me, Jerry. I'm more than happy to sit there and explain to you. I think you're a brilliant marketer because you took a broke product when you bought the team and you made it relevant for 3 years. and gave the NFL the best TV deal it could possibly be and became a billionaire on selling people on the idea that your team is going to the Super Bowl every year when everyone, including these action figures, hanging on the wall. No, it's not. You're the richest, priciest sports franchise.
Huckster.
No. Once again, I told Jason the other day, if I wanted branding advice, I go to Jerry Jones.
Yep.
If I want how to manage a successful football team, I'll go to I'll go to Kraft, Mr. Kraft, Mr. Kraft who runs, the Patriots, or I'll go to the guy that's running the Chiefs right now. That's what I talk about, sports. But if I want to be a billionaire selling people something that's never going to work, talk to Jerry Jones all day long.
I'm with you.
Come talk to me, Jerry. We'll sit down for $10,000. I'll tell you how to fix your team. $10,000.
That's it.
That's investment.
You're underselling your capabilities.
Well,
there.
I'm just.
All right, so let's
Just
do
so
this.
that you know, boys and girls listening at home, we here at the Multiverse are trying something new. We're introducing the Sports Hill podcast. We hope you enjoyed it.
So back to Superman characters.
All right, from the movie.
From the movie.
So superheroes that show up that are not Superman.
Right.
Right.
That's what I've got right there.
Let's go through who they are, and then we'll talk about it.
I've got Guy Gardner.
He's Green Lantern.
Now here's what's interesting. We have Metamorpho, but every listing in the movie just lists him as Rex Mason. It never lists him in Metamorpho.
Maybe they don't call him Metamorpho.
I don't know, but you see him as Metamorpho.
Right.
So I don't know. We got
Mr. Terrific.
We got Michael Holt's version, Mr. Terrific. Have to make the distinguish.
Yes.
Kendra Saunders, Hawkgirl.
Right.
And I brought Shira just in case.
Right.
I could not find compatible information about the engineer.
Okay.
Because everything I looked up grouped it all with the Authority.
Right.
And I can't get a good handle of what they're doing with the engineer.
Right.
They're doing an Authority movie.
Well,
they pushed that back.
Yeah, they've pushed that back on the it might not happen.
Yeah.
now.
And then Rick Flag Sr., the websites I looked at only had references about Frank Grillo, Rick Flag Sr., because I guess we didn't use him a lot in the comic book world. So I have scant little information on, other than Rick Flag Sr. was one of the members of the Suicide Squad back in the 50s, and there was like that much of 2 inches worth of text. So we won't expand on that, but my printed.
I wonder why they don't use like Rick Flag, Suicide Squad Rick Flag.
Because he's dead. He got killed in the second Suicide Squad movie by Peacemaker, and he is on ice somewhere, and that's why Rick Flag came out of retirement, and they're supposed to. Peacemaker 2 is supposed to address that Rick Flag Jr., the Rick Flag we all know, Amanda's got him on ice somewhere.
Interesting. Okay.
So that's one.
Franken Flag.
All right. So let's hit each one. Guy Gardner. He is the Green Lantern you love to hate. I'm sure somebody has him as their favorite. He's not mine.
Played by Nathan Fillion,
who is one of my favorites.
Who, legacy. Always everyone wanted him to be Hal. He got to play Hal in the animated verse a little bit. But go ahead. Not your favorite?
Yeah. Well, you're the Green Lantern guy. What should we know about Guy Gardner?
Well, first appearance was in Green Lantern 59 in 1968.
Right.
I didn't realize he went back that far.
Yes. Yep. His original claim to fame was that when the Ring had to make a choice between Hal Jordan and Guy Gardner, Hal was closer to the Ring, and that's why he got the ring. And then actually issue 59 was an imaginary story, if I remember right, where a guy got to kind of hear what his life might have been like as a reservist Green Lantern.
Yep.
I believe after that, he did not show up again until the Neil Adams, Denny O'Neil run, because he got hit by a bus while he was trying to save a kid off of
That's right.
Off a bridge, and then he was in a coma. So they had to. Then he got to take over the Ring. The Lantern malfunctioned and put him in a coma.
Okay.
He does.
So we left him in a coma until Crisis on Infinite Earths
Right.
time, because that's when Howard Chaykin drew that cover, and he started waking up out of the coma. And he was at the time, the Ronald Reagan era
Right.
Green Lantern is the
Right.
way Steve Englehart said he described his kind of pitch, that he was angry that the world had passed him by,
Right.
blamed everyone.
Yeah.
And he also, I think they thought it was kind of funny to turn him that way, because at one time, Guy Gardner was a social worker
Right.
and was helping out the needy and all of that.
Yeah.
So this about face on his in-your-face attitude with the bowl haircut.
Right.
And for the time in the 80s, they were kind of Jason Todding it, where they were trying to make you hate this guy. They didn't,
Yeah,
they weren't
I
there.
think that's fair. Yeah.
There was no, and he was almost like a bad guy
During the Bwahaha days.
before that.
Before
right?
Bwa-
This is in right after Crisis.
Uh-huh.
Before we got to Bwahaha, even though he was an arrogant ass there was that Green Lantern. We stopped Green Lantern at issue 200 and then relaunched Green Lantern Corps,
Right.
201 through 224. That's where little Astasia or Astra became a jump from being a teenager to
A grown
a
woman.
grown woman that Hal could date at that point.
Yes.
And that's when Guy Gardner was running around with the Soviet Iron Men,
Right.
because Kilowog was used to, Kilowog had shown up and he was used to a collective government style. So he went
Yes.
to Russia.
That's right.
It was Red Brigade?
Yeah.
And
What a poozer.
that's it. And over the years, they refined his characters. In the Bwaha years, he was just loud and brash. You didn't have a whole lot of backstory. They used to be a cop, gym teacher, any of that. He was always hitting on women. Thought he was a much better Lantern than Hal Jordan.
Yes.
Jordan punched him out a couple of times. Batman punched him out a couple of times.
One
Yeah,
punch.
there's a famous cover. The famous panel from
A famous panel. The cover was Guy being held back by Martian Manhunter and
Yeah.
Blue Beetle, but the fist in the face.
that panel where Batman punches him and knocks him cold. He always thought he could take Batman, and then Batman just
Showed
threw
him
his
a little bit.
boss.
Now, I'm going to avoid the yellow ring time that
Yes.
guy was
Do
holding
you
on to
think
the
it's
ring.
going to be yellow? Do you think they're going to have the yellow thing in this?
I don't think so. It looks like straight Green Lantern War, because also Fillion is signed on to be a part of the Lanterns TV series. He's going to be making appearances as Guy
Can't wait
Gardner.
for that TV show.
That looks interesting. So, after the Bwaha years and Guy kind of bouncing around, they tightened up
we should
his...
probably tell people what the Bwaha years are, since we keep
Okay,
referencing.
the Justice League by Keith Giffen and
DeMatteis.
DeMatteis and Kevin McGuire, the artist, was when, in the middle of the grit and gritty years, they relaunched the Justice League as what happens if we put real people with superpowers, and what if they don't get along? And Guy was good. Guy was always good at what he did, rubbed people the wrong way, had his own sense of honor. As time went on, they tightened Guy's character up where he was someone that, while he might rub Hal the wrong way, he has a little bit more respect for him. Guy was almost the person you wanted to show up in a fight.
Yes.
Yeah.
I feel like.
Yeah, I think under Jeff Johns' run, actually,
Yeah,
he really
he fleshed out
fleshed him
more.
Yeah.
Well, Rebirth is where I was like, oh, I kind of like Guy Gardner now, is when we had Green Lantern Rebirth. He shows up, and here's the couple of pages where he talks about the difference in each of the lanterns. And let's see, Kyle Rayner, he was an artist who had really elaborate and detailed
Yeah.
things. Then John Stewart
Was an
he
architect.
was an architect, so he built his constructs from the inside out. So they were fully functional, light constructs. And then you had Guy Gardner, and his ring sparked because he just had so much, he had so much
Leaky
emotion
spigot, yeah,
behind
yeah.
him, and so much raw power coming out of him. So he was the strongest, the most raw power coming out of that guy. So if he blasts you, you're going to feel it. It's not going to be real intricate in the way that he does it.
And interesting side note, when Parallax was trying to pick a lantern to corrupt, Johns at some point toward the end of his run on there made a statement that Guy's will and pride was so strong in the core that Parallax couldn't corrupt him. Guy didn't have any doubts.
He's stubborn.
However you want. So
Yeah.
I have an idea. Listen to Nathan Fillion talk about his feeling on Guy is pretty close to what he's going to be loud. I laugh that they got the bowl cut, but I wish they'd done.
I wish they hadn't. Yes.
Well, there's a little. I mean, thank you for trying to be comic accurate.
Yeah, sure.
This could be distracting.
But if you get the if I get Nathan Fillion being a smart ass, mocking Superman a little bit, but a good honorable person, then I think they've nailed it on. So there's my brief character synopsis of that. Thoughts?
No, I'm right there with you.
Or additions to?
No, the only thing I would say is just that I think if you're going to introduce Green Lanterns into this new DC universe, it's interesting that we're going to see Guy Gardner before we see Jordan or Stewart or anyone else. But I think there's something about this movie, and we'll see. Maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong. A lot of it seems to be on good faith. Like, we're not going to get an origin. People know who Superman is. Where people understand the concept of Green Lantern, so we can actually begin with one of the sort of most, colorful characters from the Green Lantern Corps, like that. I think that there's some potential for some good chemistry, some good interactions. Yeah. And, I've never been a huge Guy Gardner fan until Jeff Johns' run. And now I go back and I look at those Justice League comics with Giffen and DeMatteis and have a greater appreciation for that as I'm slowly going through that. But also, what a bold move that was in that grim and gritty era to go, you know what, we're not going to go that way. We're going to swing in the opposite direction.
Oh,
I remember a childhood friend of mine just getting into comics, and he really liked Guy Gardner. Yeah, that alpha male personality. He's kind of a dick, Yeah.
He's the most peacemaker of all the Green Lanterns.
And if you're gonna, before the movie, if you want to, drill down and bring your reference material for Guy Gardner up, the Bwaha Justice League is a good one. He had a 2-issue miniseries that Howard Chaykin wrote and drew. Okay,
he drawed it.
Me got no good grammar, and his entire depiction in Jeff Johns' Rebirth and all the way through the Sinestro Wars and all of that. If you want to know who Guy Gardner is, that is as close as...
Because that was... Wait a minute. So Johns and Dave Gibbons started the Green Lantern Corps spin-off book from Johns' run.
Right. And that kept Gardner and Kyle together. And a lot of other...
Yeah. The girl... Did they ever establish whether or not she is Sinestro's daughter? Isn't she?
Yes. She is Sinestro's daughter.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry. Off topic.
So you can avoid the Warrior years.
Yeah. You can skip the Warrior years.
Skip Warrior years.
You can skip the years that he was a Red Lantern. Because that kind of
it fits him well, but it doesn't make sense.
Only because they did nothing with the character.
Yeah,
it just I decided I'm going to be a Red Lantern because I'm angry. And then the current Green Lantern run that's on our shelves now has brought him back to a center of attention where he's still a little arrogant, but he's not over the top. And it's fun to watch him and Sinestro play off each other because Sinestro is an arrogant ass.
Yeah,
with Guy Gardner standing in the same room. That is...
Oh, yeah. That's always good.
That's fun stuff.
Yeah, the Green Lantern Corps, he's the main...
Yeah.
One of the main.
And, even though we're not doing what we're reading, I'm really enjoying the Green Lantern and the Green Lantern Corps books because they're bringing stuff in from the cartoon and all this other stuff. Jorel is shown up from the Grant Morrison Justice League. Phantom Stranger is running around.
Wow.
They've all been thrown into hell, and the guide for Hal in hell is Gnort.
Quite right.
Okay. Perfect.
So next one is
Metamorpho or
Rex Mason, played by Anthony Kerrigan, who played Zaz in Gotham.
Okay.
He didn't do all the skin cutting, but it was early. If you haven't watched Gotham, it's a fun show as well.
I watched the first couple episodes.
It was a fun show. So wish I had John here to.
Yeah, I was going to say, John's really the Metamorpho guy, isn't he?
Yeah, he is the Metamorpho guy. If you want a Metamorpho number one, I think we've got 2 of them sitting here right
12
now.
12 of them around here. I don't know.
Yeah.
So he is first appearance is Brave and the Bold, 57, back in 1965. Created by Bob Haney and Ramona Fredone. Thank you.
Depth.
And, I feel like he's had a tough life. through the DC publishing universe.
Yes.
Because he has been very much relegated to bit appearances.
Yeah, I was going to say he's a C-lister.
Yeah, he is. Till you associate him with Batman and the Outsiders.
Right.
I think Mike Barr did an excellent job of really, outside of his own book that he had about 8, 9 issues of before they canceled it, getting us to know who Rex. Rex was basically Indiana Jones.
Yeah,
that found, and he had his girl Sapphire.
Yep.
Who
Sapphire Stagg.
Yeah, that the man that turned him into Metamorpho, that's his daughter, Simon Stagg. And then the big ape, Boo, or whatever his name is.
Yeah.
There's another character that was the bodyguard for Simon that was in love with Sapphire.
Yeah. It's kind of got that 60s weirdness in that.
And they have a
very over the top.
So let's talk about what his powers are. What can Metamorpho do?
So Metamorpho he can basically turn into any element.
Yeah.
He's got the price of being able to do this is that he is kind of a hodgepodge of skin tones, different element. Like one side of his leg looks like clay, the other looks like a mist. In the movie, he's got ridges on his head. So he can change into any elemental element on the periodic table.
That's right.
He can also turn liquids into solids. So he's kind of he's a tank. If you want to go back to an old RPG type of reference, he is the tank. Take you out by cutting off your oxygen, changing it to argon gas, any of these things.
He's sort of Hulk-like in that he's disfigured in his transformation. He's like a disfigured guy, but he still maintains like a good attitude. Like he's a sort of happy-go-lucky guy most of the time that you see him. He's it
says here, elemental transmutation, superhuman strength and durability, hyper elasticity, and immortality. That's new to me.
That's it.
But
for reasons I'll explain in a bit.
He's also to me because they, DC, when Marvel wasn't cranking out the Fantastic Four, you'll understand this. He's the Ben Grimm of the group.
That's right.
He's got the same even the same attitude. The blue collar, oh shucks. I probably would sit down and watch a baseball or football game with you and have a beer. But
very much Ben Grimm. Yeah, better Ben Grimm than Hulk.
Yeah. And his team affiliation, Batman and the Outsiders, which is where I first discovered him.
Yeah.
He was during the Bwaha years, he was part of Justice League Europe. And he was absolutely, he was usually the comedic foil for Captain Atom and Elongated Man.
I want to go back and read Justice League Europe again.
The Terrifics, which we talked about. I don't remember this. 7 Soldiers of Victory.
Okay.
I don't know where they're referencing that. And Doom Patrol. I don't know where they're referencing that. And I'm gonna scour through here. But he is another one of these. He's always been in the background.
Yeah.
He was always a good in The Brave and the Bold, the other guy. It's almost like every other DC character knew who he was.
Yeah.
He turned down the Justice League first time around. But he was always a good C-lister, like DC, he teamed up with Superman, DC Presents, Brave and the Bold. But his biggest run consistently was in the mid to late 80s during Batman and the Outsiders.
Yes.
And then followed up after Crisis with Justice League Europe, and then helped hold the world together when we didn't have Fantastic Four. So it'll be interesting to see. Once again, he's tied into these other heroes.
Yes.
I still think these people are hawking the Terrifics.
Yes.
Because they're all wearing very similar uniforms.
Yes. Yeah. I agree.
It's also in New Frontier.
Yes.
Darren Cook.
That's right.
For some reason, I thought he was Doom Patrol along the way, but I guess not.
He's listed as Doom Patrol, and I am looking through my documentation to see, and I'm hoping Stephen can start filling in some great stories about Metamorpho as I'm hunting this.
No, I'm not really familiar with him as a Doom Patrol guy, although it fits, because like I said, he's got that kind of 60s, colorful, over-the-top, weird and wacky, and what was the other team? Doom Patrol and...
Seven Soldiers of
Victory. That's a tough one because, Green Arrow was the Seven Soldiers, in Seven Soldiers of Victory. There've been lots of different versions of that. I'm only really familiar with the Grant Morrison version of that, which came about, I don't know, it's like 15, 20 years ago, something like that. But...
I bet that's what they pull from, because apparently apparently the filmmakers were reading other Morrison stuff.
Oh, I don't doubt it. But you mentioned immortality. And I've got a thought about that because it's not Metamorpho, but there is a female version.
Yes.
Element Girl. And there's a very good issue of Sandman that deals with what it must be like to be a metamorpho, okay, but not be happy-go-lucky, because Element Girl is not. Element Girl is riddled with anxiety and despair over the condition that she's in. And it's a very good little character piece, and it does address the fact that what do you do when you are unkillable and you do not want to be this metamorpho anymore. So yeah, I would say anybody who kind of, if they have an interest or develop an interest in all things Metamorpho, it's worth checking that issue out just because.
And also currently, Metamorpho has a series going on.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
That is, when you read it, it has the same vibe as his original 50s series in Brave and the Bold. Also with that new DC format, not the compact size, but the DC Finest.
Finest, yeah.
Metamorpho's entire DC run is going to be reprinted in that up until Batman and the Outsider. Okay. So if you're listening to this going, guys, I really want to Metamorpho catch up. First off, run to our store and come pick up all the issues we have all in. You can read that.
That's right.
And
just talk to John for a minute.
Yeah, talk to John for more than 30 seconds, and you will have more Metamorpho info.
Yes, he's a bottomless pit of Metamorpho.
That's it.
Knows all the things.
So our next one will be Mr. Terrific.
Right.
Now I'm going to touch on, there's two versions of this now. In this movie, we are using Michael Holt. I don't know if they're going to mention that there was a Golden Age Terry Sloan from the Justice Society. Both of their skill sets were very similar, where they were the top athletes. In fact, and they're both the smartest man in the room. So in the old Terrifics comics, this guy was Reed Richards.
Yes.
If you watch the old Arrow CW TV shows, he was a tech guru and he suited up there. Yeah, if you want to look at a TV show to get some contemporary reference material, that's a good place to deep dive in. Michael Holt first appeared in Spectre, Volume 3, number 54, which is quite pricey, kids, if you're out there trying to...
I was going to say...
From 1997.
I know that very well, because
we've been chasing that issue. I think we were even in an auction together bidding against each other and didn't know that.
I know. I think the cheapest I've seen it was like $50 or $60, and I was like, I just can't... You know, it's because I had it. And I sold off the complete run and was just like, But here you go. DC is doing an omnibus of Ostrander's Spectre. I am so excited about that. There'll be two. And this one, Michael Holt will appear probably in Volume 2 because it was later in the series.
And it's interesting. That version of Michael Holt is a little bit different than what we got in John's Justice Society.
Yes.
Because so his team affiliation was Justice Society. He was in Checkmate. That was after Infinite Crisis, after 52 weeks, where he was one of the kings.
Yep, that's right.
It says Black Lantern Corps. I guess he was dead.
That would be Terry Sloan.
Yeah, that is. Thank you.
Yeah.
And then the Terrifics, which once again, DC's attempt to more Fantastic Four than no Fantastic Four. He's an elite level martial artist, smartest guy in the room. He has what's called T-spheres, which are little hovering AI, whatever you need in the story, widget, whatever.
Not the Phantasm Ball of Death.
No, not that. These all got T's on it because those are trademarked.
Right.
And he's very into his trademark. He has like his jacket.
It's got Fair Play on the side of that.
That is a pretty cool jacket. And I did actually find a guy who had made a proper leather one and was like really tempted.
Yeah.
But I'm not that smart.
Yeah.
You got to be smart to wear Mr. Terrific jacket.
That's true. You do, because then someone's going to come and ask you,
that's right.
What's the sound of one hand clapping? And if you don't know, then you're just embarrassed.
So just because I think you'll know this, you read Tom King's Strange Adventures series, right? Where Michael Holt is basically the guy who's trying to unravel the mystery of what happened. And he's got that thing where there's sort of, it's the Star Trek 4. Remember the beginning of Star Trek 4 when Spock's trying to put his mind back together? And
Yes.
What is the chemical component?
Oh, yeah, he's going through all that. He's going through that training or whatever.
How do you feel? Okay, so Michael Holt actually has this like flying T-spheres, and they're constantly asking him questions.
Oh,
Just
And
randomly.
that's how he stays sharp.
okay.
Because these T-spheres are constantly throwing random, bizarre questions that he can always answer.
That sounds like obnoxious Alexa. That's what that sounds like.
Kind of,
Pretty
yeah,
close,
but-
pretty close.
but
The
we-
opposite of Alexa. Alexa, I ask Alexa questions. If Alexa
Starts
was
asking you
flying
questions?
around me all the time,
Yeah.
asking me questions, that'd be a problem.
But that's what they say is that, in order to be smarter than smart, you've got to constantly be challenging your brain. And so that's one of the ways Michael Holt does that.
Or you can just be smart. You can just be,
No, it's not about being smart. It's about being smarter than smart. You've got to push your brain.
yet when he needed help, just recently with multidimensional blah, 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 he had to call up Lex Luthor.
That's true.
But everyone has an off day.
Yeah.
And Lex Luthor didn't even have his own memory. He had lost his memory and he still helped out Mr. Terrific.
If you want to go back,
happens.
I will say, if you want to go back and see good, Michael Holt stories, the John's Justice League run, outstanding.
Yes.
I really enjoyed his friendship with Dr. Midnight. I like their pairing.
Yes.
That particular Dr. Midnight apparently has disappeared or is helping
Yes.
he's listed as a supporting character in Blue Beetle's book. So I don't know.
I don't know.
But he's also doing a great job in the Justice League right now. And I like his character. It doesn't be serious, just wrapped up a Challengers of the Unknown. It's part of this all-in overall Justice League story. His depiction there is very strong as well because he is putting things together. But there's at some point in time when someone was like, thought you're supposed to be smart. And he goes, I'm not dark side smart.
Right.
I'm not a god, because that's part of, you're getting some answers. I'm not trying to get off track. You're getting some answers about what happened with the dark side energy in Challengers of the Unknown.
Right.
And you got him trying to figure out.
He's the current strategist
Yes.
for the Justice League, where he sits in the satellite
Watchtower.
tower, watchtower.
Yeah. Permanent
he's-
monitor duty.
Yeah, and he's organizing, okay, I need this team to go here and this team to go there. And then that's all coordinated by Red Tornado AI.
Right.
And the trailers that have shown him in the Superman movie, he looks like it's very similar to what he looks like he's in charge. There's
Yeah.
some point in time where it looks like he's protecting Lois Lane with force fields from his T-squares at some football stadium. So, whatever, C-spheres, T-squares.
Isn't that like a
Yeah, it's a
knitting
drafting.
thing?
It's a drafting tool.
It's a drafting
It's a
tool, yeah.
drafting tool.
Okay.
I like and it's silly why I always think of this. There's a moment in John's JSA run where Michael Holt, he's challenged to play chess with two adversaries, and the wager is that he will beat at least one of them. And what he is actually doing is he lets one of them go first, and then
He's playing two different games. He's using
these two
using
guys are actually playing
And-
chess,
and
and,
Bat- and-
he's just doing that.
Batman's the one
That's
that busted
funny.
him on it.
Yes.
It was a Thanksgiving
something
issue.
like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I always thought that was kind of cute.
Yeah. He just had a smile on his face.
That's it. I always had that in my mind, like, one of these days I'm going to challenge, like, I will play two people at chess at the same time, and I guarantee I will beat at least one of them.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
One of them,
That's how you do it.
One of them might be me. What?
right.
Yeah. Let's keep the confusion.
Yep.
Right there.
That's it.
Last one for what I have printed up is Hawkgirl.
Mm.
And I will go back to the Golden Age and touch on this. There's actually three Hawkgirls.
Yes.
Golden Age was Shira Sanders Hall, who was part of the Justice Society. She was a reincarnated Egyptian princess,
It's one.
did all that. Then we had Shaira, the cop that was part of Hawkman in the 60s, Justice League. Tim
What's
Truman
the-
used it.
Thanagar?
Thanagar.
Thanagar.
Yeah.
Thanagarian police force.
Yeah.
There's kind of two versions of her. One where she's kind of the, warrior sidekick to Hawkman. And then the Tim Truman, Osterman version where she's a, on the edge cop.
Yes.
That has nothing to do with what we're doing with this group. Because
She was in Justice League, the JLU cartoon.
Yes.
Well,
where
that's
Well, that's kind of a hybrid.
Yes.
Shira, because
it was the Shira version, like the name.
Yeah.
With the mace.
With the Thanagar. Yeah.
Yeah.
So now we're going to do this Hawkgirl. Once again, like I said, played by the actress who played the live action Dora the Explorer, is Kendra Saunders.
right.
Her origin also has a lot to do with Jeff Johns because him and David Goyer, I think Goyer gets more of the, and James Robertson gets a co-creator.
Yes.
So it doesn't look like Alyssa Johns. I'm wrong about Jeff Johns. I just give him credit for all this stuff. This version, Kendra Saunders, appeared in JSA Secret Files #1 in 1999. She, after a long disappearance of Hawk people, was key to pulling together that particular Justice Society because she was looking for Dr. Fate's, the baby form of Dr. Fate.
Right.
I have no idea if that is going to be part of this. Probably not. Her team affiliation.
So Dr. Fate was awesome in, what movie was he in?
Black Adam.
Black Adam. He
Well,
was such a cool
Bronson.
character to see on screen.
Yeah. So she's part of the JSA, Birds of Prey, Black Hawks, kind of
Really?
something.
That doesn't.
I mean, it just says Team for the Black Hawks. I don't know if she would admit that. Oh, it's listed in that 1 year later.
Okay.
I don't give that much credit.
No.
And so her abilities and immortality, reincarnation, vast knowledge gained from all of her past lives. And she also has, it's two different things. She does have the nth metal wings, but there's a version of her where those wings are part of her body.
Yeah.
So I don't know. And the other Hawk girl is running around the Thanagarian where she can retract those live wings into her body. So I don't know what we're going to get as far as, are her wings part of her? Is it like technology-based
I'm gonna tell you,
Thanagarian?
the Hawk characters, they're pretty weak. Like, just comparison-wise, like the powers are relatively weak. But when I was a kid, I was just enthralled. I thought Hawkman on the Super Friends was the coolest thing in the world. And I'm wondering how many kids are going to see like the character with the big wings flying around. I just thought it was the cool. I was so into like even Angel and Archangel back in the day. I don't know why. I just loved the winged characters back then.
And I'm going to go on my soapbox here. The Hawk family is probably the one character group that took it up the rear the most after Crisis on Infinite Earths. The reason being...
Well, there wasn't a...
Hey, I bleeped it out pretty good.
No, you did, but you covered it.
Because you had... When Crisis reset, the Golden Age heroes were supposed to disappear, but then you decided to leave Carter Hall and Shira over here.
Yeah.
But then you had to explain another Hawkman and Hawkgirl. So Osterman and Truman did that. Then they disappeared again.
Oh, it's
and they turned into a Hawk God. And then, Goyer, Robinson, and Johns at this point tried to straighten out by pouring all their history in, and then now we've got a second Hawkgirl running around the DC universe. She is also a tank amongst the universe. If you watch the Justice League cartoon, she was flying around with a mace. You see that in the movie. Once again, I don't know what origin they're using for her with this movie. It's not clear if she's Thanagarian, if she is, once again, if those wings are part of her.
Yeah. Iron
Man armor like stuff because they look metal, but kind of a fun character because she had some romances with John Stewart. She in the Meltzer run of Justice League, she had a thing for Roy Harper. And she was in that really horrible Legends of Tomorrow CW where they really got that all wrong, but that was as close as you were going to get for Hawkgirl. She has a lot to do, and she did pretty good in Dark Knight Metals.
Yeah.
She was trying to straighten it out there a little bit more. She had a miniseries not too long ago.
It wasn't
fun.
bad. Yeah, it wasn't bad.
Fun. And in the New 52 world, they tried to push her over into Earth 2 for a little bit in that book, where that made no sense. She was a fallen angel cop, something almost like when the Punisher was a fallen angel killing demons. But
The less said about that.
well, once again, if you want a deep dive on her character, I would recommend the JSA run that the Goyer and Johns did. And if you can find trade paperbacks of Johns' Hawkman series in that time frame as well.
Yes.
Because she was a big part of that. And she, for as long as, no spoilers, kids, but for as long as she was in Blackest Night, you got some interesting character development with her then.
Yeah, the really recent series was worth waiting to do.
So
you can figure that up. I think that's probably the easiest to get your hands on.
Yeah,
if
it
you
wasn't
want
bad, actually. I was okay with that.
So other than the engineer, that is my, I hope none of y'all fell asleep while I was telling you about that. That's my brief historical side characters. Because once again, everyone knows Superman. There's nothing new I can tell you about Superman or.
Well, there's the.
There is just.
Was there one more?
One
Did I miss?
That you have missed.
Oh,
It is glaring, and I'm quite surprised.
Okay.
There is another character that we've never seen in a movie before, and he's a four-legged friend.
oh,
Krypto the Super-Dog.
well, that's another one of those I think that
So, yeah. I mean,
he's not on my character sheet
No,
there.
he's
So
not.
that's
No, well, I would-
He's had his own movie.
yeah.
In
He
Super
has.
Pets. He had his own TV show for a little while.
Yep.
Theme song went Krypto the Super-Dog.
But
was
we've
awesome.
not ever seen. Yeah. The Krypto in a live action setting, interacting with flesh and
Superman,
blood.
yeah.
With a cape. Now, I do like I was a little dubious at first because James Gunn has made that comment about how he's kind of a bad dog, but in so much that James Gunn took on a stray, I guess, and for about a year, this dog that he had adopted, it destroyed his shoes, it destroyed a $6,000 laptop, it wrecked his house, but in time it calmed down and if you're a dog lover,
You know the routine.
You kind of have to just, especially if you're dealing with a rescue, because you don't know what the poor thing's been through previously. You just got to show all the love and patience that's needed and hope that eventually you'll get around. At first I was like, I don't know. But after seeing that trailer, the extended trailer,
The little 4-minute.
where it's jumping up and down on an obviously wounded Superman, I'm like, you got me. You had me right there, because I have a dog and I can absolutely see that if I called my dog, which is a very boisterous German Shepherd, by the way, and if I was lying in the snow like, I need my dog, that's what my dog would do. He would run over and he would be jumping and excited. I'm so excited to see you, man. How's it going? And jump and pound. And then eventually it would be like, are you okay? Is something wrong with you?
Yeah, not a lot of emotional intelligence in the dog. No,
I don't know. No,
it's all dogs.
It's awareness.
for beyond emotional intelligence, because they get so excited. They're just so excited. And then eventually it's like,
Oh, this is serious.
oh, wait a minute. There's something serious going on.
I mean, James Gunn did make us love a raccoon and a walking tree.
And there you go.
And I guess that's how we got
that's
Bradley
it.
Cooper in there too.
Absolutely.
It's got to be something deaf. So there's another character in there that we haven't seen.
What?
Kelex,
Yes.
Superman's robot,
Oh,
That is
Wilbur
true.
Butler?
like the robot butler. So his Jarvis inside of the Fortress of Solitude is a Kryptonian robot. It looks like it's a series of robots that are helping him, but his main Kryptonian robot that helps him is Kelex, and they have the ability to bring all the Kryptonian technologies to bear to heal him and take care of him, and that's how Superman got rejuvenated after dying and coming back and suit Superman.
That's right.
The Kelex robots at the fortress rejuvenated him in the end, but we haven't seen that one. It looks like it might have some personality.
I mean, I know one, not Kelex, but one of the robots is voiced by James Gunn's Lucky Rabbit's foot, Michael Rooker.
Okay.
And the other one's by Alan Tyndike.
Oh, yeah. Okay. That's cute.
Oh,
So we haven't had that. And then, the normal cast of characters.
Steve Lombard. We've never had Steve Lombard before.
No. We got
Not in
so
live
you
action.
got Lois Lane, of course,
Yeah.
longtime love interest and intrepid reporter. Sometimes damsel in distress, sometimes badass. You just never know. You never know what you're gonna get with Lois. Then you've got Jimmy Olsen. We've seen, and Jimmy is Superman's pal.
Yes.
So he's always been Superman's pal, and will
Second page.
I
Which Jimmy are we
assume-
getting?
Yeah.
Are we getting Goofy,
Or Jack Kirby.
or are we getting Jack Kirby? Because I really wasn't familiar with that Jimmy Olsen until I started diving into the Fourth World Cup. Like, this Jimmy Olsen's kind of a
We get Cat.
jerk.
We get Cat Grant, who,
Yes.
that'll be interesting. Yeah, Steve Lombard, we don't
we'll
get.
get some of those characters in here. The storyline as a whole, we're told that the source material is Superman All In by Grant Morrison.
All Stars.
All-Star.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, sorry. All-Star Superman by Grant Morrison. All-Star Superman it's a very sort of Silver Agey story, which means it's all kind of the space age, science-based kind of.
And extra,
thing.
and kind of extra fantastical, because I doubt we'll have Samson and Atlas show.
Yeah, there's
in,
that whole 12 labors of Hercules
But-
element to it.
But the robots, even the robots in the way his Fortress of Solitude's laid out, rings pretty close to
Yeah.
what I saw in Grant's.
Well,
that
All-Star
story.
Superman was because it wasn't connected to regular continuity. There once, boys and girls, let me tell you, there once was a dream, and the dream was that DC Comics was going to do this side imprint of books called the All-Star books, and they wouldn't be tied to continuity, and great storytellers would be able to come in and tell a version of the character that they want, and it could be different. And so we got Grant Morrison and Frank Quitely on All-Star Superman. We got Frank Miller and Jim Lee on All-Star Batman and Robin. And then we got nothing, because it was supposed to be Adam Hughes writing and drawing All-Star Wonder Woman. And I don't know what happened with that. And then it was just killed. They pulled the plug on it. Highlights include I'm the Goddamn Batman from Frank Miller and Jim Lee's run, which is probably the greatest line, I think, ever.
And we just started explicit, boys and girls.
Yes, absolutely.
And it wasn't me this time.
No, that's true. And lots of lingerie shots, because Jim Lee was all about the lingerie. And there you go. But anyway, but All-Star Superman is, if you've never read a Superman comic and you want an introduction, actually, that's a pretty good one to go to. It is Grant Morrison, so it does go to some weird and wacky places. But in terms of capturing those characters, Morrison knows those characters very well. I challenge anyone to come up with a writer who has written a more devious and sinister Lex Luthor, whilst at the same time giving you that he's kind of got a point element. Because that's the thing. There's been some great Lex Luthor as villain writers. Oh, absolutely. But if you want a really good Luthor, you've kind of got to write him with that he's kind of got a point side to him. So there you go. Yeah. And of course, Frank Quitely's art is freaking gorgeous.
Yeah. The artwork is just brilliantly done. And it's a very bright. So
He's dying.
yeah. So
He was
the
overcharged
through line
by the
story
sun.
is
He's
that
overcharged by the
Superman
sun.
is
Yeah.
is dying. He's being overcharged, right? So they've got to figure out, and he knows that he's dying, but he's still helping people and doing all the Superman things, and the people around him are worried about him and trying to help him. But overall, it is a great set of issues. I remember when I was picking it up, I was initially just enthralled by Frank Quitely's artwork.
Yeah.
I just thought it was beautiful.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay, stop right there. Go back. You can't, that page on the left, that is my favorite page of comic art
Turn it around. Sorry.
for any comic. That right there for Superman
Okay.
tells you everything you need to know about Superman in one page.
Describe it. So say why.
So you have there are some lead-ins to this in terms of background noise, because Superman, of course, has superhearing. So he hears everything. And this is something that's been touched upon. I think the Brandon Routh film touches upon this at one point. He goes up into the sky and he just listens because Superman can hear everything that happens on Earth. He has to condition himself to tune it out, otherwise he would kind of probably go nuts. He'd overload. But in the course of this particular issue, there are some little sound bubbles going on in amongst everything else that involve a young person who is late for an appointment and needs to see a doctor. It's a mental health issue. And basically what it culminates in are 5 panels, which I will attempt to describe as best I can, but you're much better off finding the issue, where this young person has made a decision, and that decision is to end their life. It's a suicide. A decision has been made to kill herself. And so panel 1 is the aforementioned teenager on the top of a very large building. And then the second panel is a close-up of the face. That decision's been made. And then, boom, same level of shot, same close-up shot, but now there is a very large chest with a Superman insignia on it. And the dialogue is, "Your doctor really did get held up, Regan. It's never as bad as it seems." In the third panel, that Regan is looking over her shoulder with like, "Oh my God, what the?" And Superman says, "You're much stronger than you think you are. Trust me." And then they hug. He gives her a hug. That right there, that's everything. That's Superman right there. So he's dying, overexposure to the sun. At this point in the story, he's had to deal with Bizarros and criminals from Krypton and Lex Luthor and a date with Lois that goes off the rails and these Herculean challenges and all this. There's so much crazy going on. He's got so many things to solve. He's still got time to help a young girl. Yeah. And that's it. That's Superman right there.
Yeah. One of the things I love about the trailer for the movie is that the one time you see Superman being Superman is when there's an explosion or something's happening and he's shielding a young girl.
Well, I noticed, it struck me quite a bit during that scene. He puts his hand on the back of her head to prevent whiplash.
Yeah.
So I like that. So, because that's a beautiful scene where that's a Superman being Superman, but just that, I don't know why I don't know why it vibes with me when it's like, oh, he's protecting her head. I mean, is like almost like to shoot off with her or something to get her out of there. But that's that extra care where if there was a Superman in our world, that would be part of, as long as everyone's okay. I kind of have a love-hate with this All-Star Superman.
Really?
Well, here's why.
Okay, go on.
I know it's a love letter from Grant Morrison to the Silver Age, that this is his Superman. And the art is beautiful. And there's nothing wrong with the story other than I was never a fan of the Silver Age, goofy Superman stuff. Like Jason and I've talked about it, I've talked about it before. I started my comic career, I was a Marvel zombie. I didn't discover DC until 84. I didn't care about it. 84, 85, and it was all George Perez related. So when Superman, I saw him in the Justice League, I never picked up any of those Kurt Swan issues. I picked up the 2 Alan Moore at the end of his run, and then we had Crisis. For me, as long as Superman was with other people, it was fine. But I was never a solo Superman fan until Byrne's run and Wolfman's run. So I never got any of the silly, like I got a lot of friends, and I think both of y'all are part of this, like some of the silly Mixel-Plixel stories and all of that from the Silver Age. I used to look at that and go, that's crap. Give me a little more of this. But I appreciate this for the art that it is and the story that it is. If someone came in and said, I've never read Superman before, this would be one of the ones I would hand to them. And I know it's on the top 50 Superman list.
Yeah.
It just, Jimmy Olsen as a bug-eyed monster, all the things that Sasha talks about, like Jimmy Olsen, those Silver Age stories to me, I'm like, I wasn't reading Superman then, because I think for Superman, it sounds formulaic when you say, it's whatever you're exposed to, but there's other versions of Spider-Man I can go back and read that it's not Spider-Man I was for. Like, I didn't read Ditko's. I go back and some of that doesn't bother me. Superman, and we've talked about this, has very defined,
Yes.
Golden Age, he was throwing, crooked landlords off bridges. Silver Age, same thing. Batman's a little more, Batman's got different colored outfits and all this. So when I fell in love with DC and fell in love with the Superman character,
Right.
it was past those childish things. So when I go back and read some of this, even when I've tried to go back and read some of the Silver Age tomes, I'm like, I don't know how this went 423 issues. Gee willikers, guys. And I love Kurt Swan's art. Very simple but clean. But I do, everything y'all said about that little tome there is accurate too.
Well, so again, I think that if you've never read a Superman comic before, I would highly recommend that this is the one to read. And if you think you've read good Superman comics, but you've never read it, then you should absolutely read it. And DC have made it available. They released a new hardcover, a collection for Superman Day, which was recent. And they also have included this in part of their compact comics. So you can actually get the whole thing at a very affordable price of $9.99.
Cheaper than a meal at McDonald's.
Yeah, and it's a perfect size to slip into a bag or what have you. But I just want to...
By the way, we have both of those.
Yes,
Multiverse
we do.
Comics.
have plenty of these.
So we've got stacked on them because we think you'll want them for the movies.
Absolutely. So if you all don't mind indulging me just for a moment, I don't know how well you guys remember this, but I remembered it. And tell me if this sounds familiar. Okay? Right? So I'm setting the scene. This is in the final issue of All-Star Superman. Superman has an opportunity to spend some time with Jorel, his father, for reasons that I won't spoil because you want to read the story. And he's having a conversation with Jorel, which will be his last conversation with Jorel. And they're talking about these labors that Superman has had to deal with. And Jorel tells him, "Your work is done. You have shown them the face of the man of tomorrow. You have given them an ideal to aspire to, embodied their highest aspirations. They will race and stumble and fall and crawl and curse. And finally, they will join you in the sun, Kal-El. In time, you will no longer be alone." Sound familiar?
Huh?
That is what Zack Snyder used for Russell Crowe's speech to Kal-El in Man of Steel.
Interesting.
So this has actually been referenced before in a previous Superman film.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So there you go.
So there you have it,
So
boys and girls.
We're recommending you go see this movie.
Go see this movie and read that comic.
Yeah, I would pick up All-Star Superman and then hit the other reference stuff. Hopefully it's been a good companion piece to the movie, getting you ready.
Get you
And
ready, get you excited.
You'll know all the things that you need to know going in. Yet you can skip all the origin story since they're not doing one. And just know this is the stuff you want to know.
That's exactly it. And just to say, at some point, we're going to do we've got a crazy idea about podcasts doing like a book club thing with some of these compact editions that DC and Marvel are putting out. And that's one of the books.
And we're using some of our kids as guinea pigs.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that'll come soon.
I got to say, I've got one of the compacts right now, and I've been carrying it in my backpack when I travel. I really prefer the big ones.
Oh, yeah. No, you kind of, we'll save that for when we have the discussion about the pros and cons of these editions, these compact editions, because that's in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, but if you want to read the story, it's never been cheaper to read that story. It's $10. The $10 collection of 12 comics. It's a great deal. All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Multiverse Comics podcast. If you'd like to meet us in person, you can find us at the Multiverse in Hurst, Texas. That's our brick and mortar store. If you'd like to shop with us online, you can do that at www.multiverse.shop. Till next time, keep reading comics.